Hi, and welcome to the Living in a Prius YouTube channel. I wanted to do a video today in response to requests I've had about how I built the camera security system that I've been using in my car as I've lived in my Prius for the last 2.5 years. As you may have seen in other videos, I created a custom camera system that allowed me to have a wireless monitor so that I could see what was going on around my car. In fact, the wireless monitor, as you see here, could actually let me see what was going on around my car when I was inside the office where I worked in Silicon Valley. And it also allowed me to see outside of my car when I was inside my car working or sleeping. The main reason that I built the camera system is because I found that the safest way to live in my car was to have a blackout panel system that hid me while I was sleeping in my car. So what I did is I bought corrugated plastic panels like you use to create yard signs for political campaigns, and I created blackout panels. And you can find out about that process in other videos. In the description section below, I have links to playlists, including a how-to playlist. And in that playlist, there are videos about how I created these panels. But I created these panels so that I could be completely hidden from view when I slept at night. It didn't start out as a very successful experiment because you could easily see the panels in the windows. But as I got more experience and tried more different methods, I actually ended up with a really good method that's a combination of tinted windows and blackout panels. And so here you can see in the light of day, I'm taking a picture of my car window, which looks like I have reflective tint. But actually what it is it's a basic tint on the windows with a blackout panel behind it. So it's impossible to see inside the car. So I could be working inside the car in daylight and nobody would know that I'm in there doing anything. And more importantly, I can sleep in my car at night. Here's my car at a truck stop with the blackout panels in. And again, it just looks like I have really dark tinted windows, so it doesn't draw any attention to my car. But I can be inside with all the lights on, watching movies, doing whatever, and no one outside can see that I'm in my car. And if you're going to sleep in your car on a regular basis, I strongly suggest that you get some type of a system like this so you hide yourself from view. Because after living in my car for over 2.5 years, I've never had a police officer or somebody working at a truck stop where I was sleeping. I've never had anyone ever knock on my car window at night and wake me up and say, "What are you doing here?" Because they don't know I'm there. And I've slept in a lot of places. This is just a small sample of the different truck stops that I've slept at while living in Silicon Valley and traveling throughout the Southwest. And I've traveled over 10,000 miles across every state in mainland United States. So this is just a small sample. And as I showed you earlier, I've parked in truck stops. And here's a really good example of how good this system is because I'm parked next to a 24-hour Wendy's drive-through at a truck stop underneath a bright light next to a big bright sign with all of the gas pumps right behind my car. And I'm completely invisible. And inside the car, it's completely dark and conducive to sleeping. And with the camera system that I've built, I can see the outside. So here's a view from the inside at night. What I've circled here are the windows with the window panels in them. And on the sides, the little side panels is where the camera goes. But in the front, you can see in the front, I got panels in every window. And also in the front window, I've got a sunscreen that I bought that was specifically designed for the size of my window that I then just put Velcro around the perimeter so it can snugly fit in that window. So, since a lot of people are curious, let's talk about the camera system I created so I could actually see outside while I was hidden in my car at night. And so here's the basic materials that I used. And by the way, I'm going to preface everything I tell you about this system by saying this is a tough little system to build and maintain because it's built from scratch with small microelectronics components. So if you're really confident about your ability with electronics and you know how to solder and do other things, go ahead and take a shot at this. But this is complicated and not really easy for the average person to build. But I know how valuable it was when I started trying to figure out how to live in a car, and I do like to experiment with electronics. And it was really helpful to me to find a couple of videos of people showing me their tricks of using little cameras to build camera systems. So I wanted to do this video in case that's helpful to you. So the system starts with these little micro cameras. They're about the size of a penny. They're tiny. They're made for drones, flying drones. And they have these little antennas on the top, so they're wireless in terms of video transmission. They're not wireless in terms of power. So you need a power source to plug these cameras into, but you don't need to wire them into your monitor or any type of viewer. That can be wireless. And this is the viewer that I bought. $60 viewer. I would say that all in, it probably cost me about $100 to $150 for this system. And it depends on the quality of stuff that you buy. And you can pause this video as you go through it and look at each of these items that I'm showing, because these are the actual orders that I made on Amazon when I bought the supplies. I also bought some basic wiring to run from the cameras back to the central place where I plugged them into power. And I bought these little USB microcontroller connectors. So these plugged into a USB port that I bought, and then I soldered the wires onto these to wire the power to each of the cameras. Here's the hub that I bought. It's a USB hub, so that's what the connectors plug into. And they've got little buttons that turn each USB port on and off, so you can turn the cameras on and off. And the other thing I'll mention is these little cameras get hot, so you got to be careful with them. Don't set things around them that may be flammable, and you want to leave them off, except for in the moment you're turning on the camera to look outside to see what's going on. And so finally, as an FYI, to build my system, I did have to solder. And a lot of people probably have never soldered. Although, if you decide at any point you want to get into electronics and try to learn how to build anything, it's like anything else. You can watch YouTube videos and learn how to do it. And there's a lot of good videos out there about learning how to solder. And the final thing that I had for my system was a power station. And as I mentioned in other videos, I use this power station for a lot of things, including powering my refrigerator cooler when my car's off during the day. But this provided a way for me to have power without my car needing to be on. And I didn't want to plug it into my cigarette lighter just because, again, I've got this power station to make sure I don't plug anything into my car's battery when the car is off, so I don't risk draining the car battery. So with an overview of the materials that I used, here's how I built the system. As I mentioned, I've got these little corrugated plastic panels that I built for the windows. These are a couple smaller panels that go in the little side windows, and you can see here that I've got the camera stuck into the back of this panel. I've wired the camera to some extension wire and wired that extension wire into the USB connector. Here's a look at the other side of the panel where you can just see the little camera sticking. And here's a view of it actually in the window from the inside of the car, all wired up. And so what I did is I just took these little cameras and I cut the wire, cutting it as close to the connector as I could to leave as much wire connected to the camera as possible. And then I just stripped away the wire covers to expose the metal wire underneath, and then twisted it together with this extension wire. I actually used solder to rub onto the connection to make sure it held, and then tape the connection with electrical tape to make it all safe. And then at the other end of the wire, I connected it to these connector adapters. And you can see here in the diagram, there's a pin that's specifically for 5 volt. I think that's what the camera was a 5 volt. These pins have power available for 3 volt and 5 volt. And then connected the ground to the ground pin, soldered it on, taped it all up real good. And you can see here where I was actually doing that solder work. Again, it's tedious and it's going to take time. You're going to have to be patient and experiment with it, especially if you haven't soldered before. And to make the cameras fit snugly into the panels, I've just found a drill bit that was slightly smaller than the camera lens here at the very end of the camera. And I drilled a hole into that panel and then just pushed the camera through, and it fits snugly into that panel. And again, here's that camera in the panel, in the window. And as you can see from looking at the outside, again, these are tinted windows. So when you put the blackout panels into tinted windows, you just can't see anything. You can't see that I've got a panel here with a little camera. You can barely maybe kind of make out that little camera dot, but nobody's going to notice it. Nobody's going to see that you clearly have cameras sitting in the window of your car. So again, it's another stealthy way to hide yourself, hide your camera system, hide what you're doing when you're living or car camping. And so back inside the car, the cameras are in the panels. I ran the wire through the car to the hub, which I just used Velcro to stick it to the side of the cooler, which is near my head where I'm asleep in the car. And so as you can see, there's these little lit buttons on the USB hub. And when you push a button, it feeds power to that connector, and the little light, these actually have little lights on the connectors that light up to show that power is going to it. That power flows through the cable and goes to the camera and turns it on. Then that camera sends a wireless signal to the wireless monitor, and you can sync them up by putting them on the same channel. Those little cameras come with little guides that tell you how to change the settings to be on different frequencies. And then the camera monitor also comes with a little guide that tells you which channel to find frequencies. But they usually just have a button you can push to do an auto search and program. So you can turn your cameras on, do an auto search, and it'll find the signals and then store those channels. And you could have different channels so that you could flip through the channels on the monitor instead of using the buttons on the hub, but I like the buttons on the hub as a better approach. And here's the final result, which, by the way, this is not a bad monitor. This is actually looking at the monitor at my rear camera, which is facing at the setting sun. So it's just really bright outside. But I wanted to show you this picture because it shows the clear contrast. It is pitch black in my car because I have all the blackout panels on, even when it's bright outside. So I not only have privacy, I have darkness, which helps with going to sleep, and a way to see what's going on in the world around me. Here's another view of a side camera where I can see a car that's parked next to me, and you can see I'm pushing the buttons over here, switching from camera to camera. So I hope that's helpful. Again, this is by far not the simplest camera system to create because I wanted something that was highly customizable to my needs, and I do know how to build electronics. But there have been a lot of people who've asked me to provide more details about how I built this system. So hopefully this is helpful information, at least to someone. As always, please subscribe to join this amazing community. And as I mentioned before, in the description section below, there are playlists if you want to see all of my videos in order or just the how-to videos I have for living in a car or car camping. Also, feel free to leave any questions or comments in the description section below because I try to respond to all of them as quickly as possible. Thanks for watching this video.